Welcome, everyone, to the season finale of the Patel and Kumar Show. I am Shivam Patel, coming to you live from San Antonio, Texas, and my co-host, Mr. Kumar, coming to you live from Mumbai, India. Mr. Kumar, what an amazing first season we had with wonderful guests and awesome fan engagement, but we're ending the season on a bang as we have a special episode with special guests, Memphis Grizzlies head coach Taylor Jenkins, and also the first Indian origin female assistant coach in the NBA, Sonia Raman. Are you ready, Mr. Kumar?
I have always said it to you that I am born ready, and I am coming to you live from Mumbai, a rainy Mumbai. It's been raining, pretty much for the last couple of days. But what an amazing show we have for you. And Mr. Patel, it's been a phenomenal experience having this show with you. We've done like 12, 13 episodes so far, and I can't believe we are in the final episode. It's a bittersweet moment, that the season is coming to an end, but I think, thanks to the NBA and of course all the teams, this bubble experiment really worked out, and, we can be more excited for the season finale with Coach Taylor Jenkins and Coach Sonia Raman, who will be joining us shortly. But before that, I think it's just natural for us to discuss a little bit about the NBA Finals and, of course, the Lakers, the role players, and, of course, moving on about the LeBron GOAT conversation, because that is going to be the topic that's going to be pretty much discussed, throughout, this season till the next season pretty much begins. But before we start, this is the Lakers dinner menu right after the game, and you can see there was a lot of Indian flavor with some Indian butter chicken, some Indian curry, and of course Bombay potatoes. But let me tell you, we're going to put some tadka in it in a later part of the show.
Definitely, we're gonna put some spices into it, and that was that's a dinner for champions, Mr. Kumar. The Los Angeles Lakers had those kind of meals, and look at what happened. They won the championship. And that sounds good, Mr. Kumar. I'm getting hungry. I don't know about you.
I'm getting ready for the spiciest section on YouTube, on the PatelandKumar India talk show, which is the Indian Tadka section. You know what?
Yeah, no, definitely. That is definitely the spiciest segment on YouTube, but that's later in the show. And in that segment, we're going to introduce the MaiBhiGrizzlies contest winners. So make sure, stay tuned for that. But first, Mr. Kumar, what are your overall thoughts about the NBA Finals, and kind of give us kind of a quick recap about what you saw?
Well, we did discuss it in our special edition show right after the finals. I think, the Lakers played a fantastic game. And, I think the whole world expected them to pretty much either sweep them or a gentleman's sweep. So you got to give a lot of credit to the Miami Heat team, because they did, get 2 games off of LeBron James and the Lakers. And it was phenomenal performance by Jimmy Butler especially. But once again, I think it was no match. Lakers were always the favorites to win this, and they did it in style, especially that last game. I think it was pretty much over after that halftime, because they totally deflated the Miami Heat team.
They did, and the Miami Heat used all their energy in Game 5. Jimmy Butler was going back and forth with LeBron James, and he had a 40-point triple-double, but he just ran out of gas. The Heat role players really struggled, but the Lakers role players really stepped up. LeBron James, they were meant for business. He came in with an approach that, hey, we're going to end this tonight. He was super aggressive. So was Anthony Davis. And LeBron James and Jimmy Butler are the only 2 players in NBA Finals history to have 2 triple-doubles in one final series. We expected that from LeBron. LeBron is one of the greatest players of all time and in the GOAT conversation. But Jimmy Butler, Mr. Kumar, really changed his reputation. Everybody thought he was a headache, a problem in the locker room with Minnesota, Philadelphia, and Chicago. But he just showed that he just wants to win, and he'll hold his teammates accountable. But I have to give the Heat credit, like you said. They ended up, pushing the Lakers a little bit. Even the Lakers, that was more with the Lakers sleepwalking. But the Los Angeles Lakers ended up prevailing and winning the 2020 NBA championship.
Yeah, I mean that's what it does. In terms of some of those free agents, who have never won a championship, who would like to join, some teams right in the last leg of their career. It's pretty much like Lakers get that a little bit of a notch. Some of those free agents coming in, even Miami Heat. I mean, they need another star to basically support Jimmy Butler. And I think that's the key in terms of the Miami Heat not able to match up with the Lakers. Of course, you had Jimmy Butler playing a phenomenal game. They had injuries for Goran Dragic in that first game, and he was never himself when he came back in that sixth game. Bam Adebayo also like out of sorts. So it's and Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson are like youngsters, so they need a little bit of more experience, and I think they'll get that. The ceiling is very high for them, but I think they can really attract some free agents to come in and probably help them. But the next season, I mean, East is going to get a little bit tougher
Oh
with
man.
the Brooklyn Nets coming in, and I'm sure Milwaukee Bucks, they'll pretty much make some moves in order to get another star alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo. And of course, Boston Celtics, you can never count them out because Danny Ainge is a great general manager and he must have some act up his sleeve.
He does. And Mr. Kumar, you heard it here first. I said that the East is going to be better than the West next year. It's going to be a lot more deeper. But regarding the Heat and free agents, they're going to have no problem getting free agent. Who doesn't want to live in Miami with no income tax, the beaches, the lifestyle there, the nightlife? I think it's a great place. They can attract free agents like LA. So, but it's just a matter of fit. You don't want to bring in a superstar that's going to take away minutes from Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, and that's going to really stunt their growth. So you want another star, maybe like a Bradley Beal, who's a playmaker and can get his own bucket. But Mr. Kumar, in the finals, the Lakers just had more experience than the Miami Heat. LeBron James, of course, he's been to 10 finals. Rajon Rondo won a championship with the Boston Celtics in 2008. Danny Green won 2 championships with the Spurs and the Raptors. So they had that finals experience and knew when the bright lights come, they knew how to play. So I think that was a big difference in the series.
Absolutely, and a big thanks to Shireen Limaye. I mean, she was the captain of the Indian national team, women team. Thank you very much for joining into the show. And Tanish Sharma also commented there, who's going to join in as the winner of the Grizzlies contest. I mean, it's as I told you. I mean, when this Lakers team was assembled, I think a lot of people had doubts because there was, nobody knew if Rajon Rondo would like really fit in. Dwight Howard, his, reputation precedes him because the last 5 years has not been a great story for him with injuries and playing for multiple teams. So it was like a redemption kind of season for a lot of these guys. Even Morris. His brother went on and signed with the LA Clippers, assuming that they'll win a championship there. But it was the Morris twins in the LA Lakers uniform who ended up winning the ring. So it's been a very cohesive unit that pretty much gelled right from the start of the season. And nobody knew whether the experiment with Anthony Davis would work. I know he was brought in to, of course, beef up, and they pretty much gave all the assets to New Orleans in order to get Anthony Davis. But at the end of the day, it just proves that it worked when you win the finals. Otherwise, it's bust. It's just like LA Clippers. We just still think whether they did the right thing by getting Paul George from the Oklahoma City Thunder by giving up all the assets. But it was a different story for the Lakers because they were successful.
Oh man, don't even bring up the LA Clippers, Mr. Kumar. That's a shaking my head moment. And now we're asked a poll question: which Lakers role players had the biggest impact? It looked like playoff Rondo won, with 43% of y'all said that playoff Rondo had the biggest impact as a role player on the Lakers. And I think he definitely did, because when he was out with the seeding games and then the first round of the playoffs, the Lakers really struggled, finding another ball handler besides LeBron to be able to dictate the offense, get everybody in their spots, and also be able to find his own shot and get others involved. And Rondo brought a really great leadership role to the Lakers. Just another veteran who has championship experience. So I think he really added a lot of value to the Los Angeles Lakers on both ends of the floor and in the leadership qualities.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely would rank him number one role player in my opinion. And there's no doubt in that because he played some fantastic games. Even in the series against Denver, he had a massive game. And of course, in game 2 against Miami Heat, and then of course game 6, it was that experience that came out. It was not just playoff Rondo and regular season Rondo. I mean, in an interview, he told that he doesn't like that nickname of playoff Rondo because that basically signifies that he doesn't put that much effort during the regular season. But it's just that the mentality changes during the playoffs, and you're more geared. You have more time to learn about the opponent, so you can get in more. You just study more about the opponent. So that's the reason you have these phenomenal performances by some of these role players. But I would definitely rank Rajon Rondo number 1. KCP is number 2 in my list, and then comes Caruso in number 3.
Yeah, that list does sound pretty good. That KCP has hit a lot of big shots, especially when they needed them. In Game 4, he had a big 3 that put the Lakers on top. Throughout the playoffs, I think LeBron, really trusts him as a shooter, and that he will make the big shots, when called upon. And I think that was really credit to Kadavius Caldwell-Pope for being ready, because he doesn't know when he's going to get all his shots. But also when he's missing shots, playing good defense and playing both ends of the floor, because that's where his value really adds as a 3-and-D player. And Alex Caruso, I have to give it to him. He's not the best player out there, but he knows the right way to play, how to get to his spots, when to shoot, when to pass. So I think he adds a lot of value to the Lakers, and he hustles a lot also. So I think he kind of gets everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, he's called the GOAT by his teammates.
No, he's not a GOAT, Mr. Kumar. He's a great player, but he's not a GOAT. There's only one GOAT on that team, and that's LeBron James.
I know, but it's a funny nickname because he just plays hard, and that's the most important thing, right? I mean, whenever you see him come onto the court, he just gives it all, and you can see that he puts in a lot of effort, not only on the offensive side, but also on the defensive side. Yes, he got to improve his shooting a bit because you just cannot rely on his shooting at all times, but at the same time, you can rely on him defensively, and that's one of the key things why he was put in the starting 5 in Game 6 instead of Dwight Howard, because they went small, but they knew that Alex Caruso can get it done defensively.
He is, and Mr. Kumar, he's like that fly that keeps bothering you and you want to go away. He's like a pest on defense. He really gets into the ball handler, gets his hands, fouls a little bit, but he's a smaller player, so he's really feisty and really aggressive, and that works. The Lakers need that kind of guy that'll be willing to put his body on the line to gain extra possessions.
Yeah, and this, mind you, I mean, I more than the offense of the Lakers, I think I was very impressed by the defense of the Lakers. When Coach Vogel was signed right at the beginning of the season, the narrative basically changed that he's a defensive-minded coach, and that actually came out pretty much in the entire playoffs. I mean, he made the adjustments against Portland, he made the adjustments against Houston Rockets, he made the adjustments against the Denver Nuggets. And of course, he did a great job of making adjustments even in the finals. So I think you got to give a lot of credit to Coach Frank Vogel because he did a phenomenal job. And especially with assistant coaches like, Jason Kidd, Phil Handy, and then Lionel Hollins. People pretty much thought that there's going to be a lot of ego clashes and Frank Vogel might get sacked at the middle of the season, and it's Jason Kidd's job to take over as the head coach. But I think this unit, the coaching staff, as well as the players, they really gelled as a unit. So that's the key important thing for the Lakers.
They really did, and Coach Vogel was able to manage all the egos. Usually mid-season, LeBron has some drama with the team. They completely avoided all the drama with all the different egos that they have in the locker room. He did a great job of building a relationship with his stars, with his players, and I think that led them to a championship. So now, Mr. Kumar, is the conversation that I've been waiting for. Does LeBron winning the 4th championship make him the GOAT? And I would say no. I would still go with Michael Jordan. Even though, Mr. Kumar, I got to admit that LeBron is really closing the gap. If he wins 2 more championships, then we got a serious debate. But Michael Jordan, what can you say, Mr. Kumar? 5 MVPs, 9 all-defensive teams, 10 scoring titles, averaged 30 points a game in his career. What can you say, Mr. Kumar? He's the most dominant player that we've ever seen in the NBA.
I think what this win has done basically is that kept this conversation going of comparison with Michael Jordan. I'm not saying, in my opinion, he became the GOAT when he won the 2016 championship against the Golden State Warriors, when he came back from 3-1 deficit. But that's a different story altogether. I think we can argue about it for days to come, and this is going to go on. But if the Lakers had lost in the playoffs, or if they had lost in the finals, I think this conversation would have ended right there, because people would have said that, LeBron James doesn't have the influence anymore as much as he did in the previous years. But you got to consider this. In the last decade, whenever he has been healthy, it's pretty much certain that LeBron James will play in the last game of the season. And he's always in the finals, right?
Yeah.
Yes, people would also probably point out his, downfall in the 2011 series against Dallas Mavericks, and since then it's come a long way. So what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter what my opinion is about who's the GOAT, but I think the GOAT conversation keeps on going, and we have, the media has the narrative to basically keep on discussing this and keep on debating this. Till the time that LeBron falls. But I feel he can really catch up to those 6 rings. I know he cannot catch up to the scoring title, because I think he'll be more of, get more of a role player kind of a situation in the future, with him giving the mantle to Anthony Davis, probably even next season. But I think he can still play at a very high level for at least 2 or 3 more years. And I think the Lakers have a chance, if they sign Anthony Davis again, because he's still a free agent, that they have the chance to win 2 or 3 more titles in the Laker uniform. So what I'm trying to say is that this conversation is going to go on for some more time. And, we can throw all the statistics. And LeBron himself said, heavy as the head that wears the crown, and bring on those statistics that probably people have never achieved in the history of basketball. And so he himself sees this and he's mentioned this too, that he is not claiming to be the GOAT. He's just asking for his respect, because people have always mentioned that he came to LA Lakers to be a film star or a media person.
Be the next Michael B. Jordan.
Exactly. So all he's trying to say is, you know what? Just keep me in the conversation, because if not number 1, I'm still the number 2 player in the history of basketball.
Oh, he's already cemented himself as the number 2 player in the history of basketball. I think there's a real chance. He needs to win 6, championships. Also, he needs to be number 1 in scoring, all-time in scoring, number 1 all-time in assists, which if he keeps playing, he has a real chance at. But Mr. Kumar, Michael Jordan, I think he just did something just unbelievable. In the finals, he played against some really tough teams. He beat Magic Johnson, Gary Payton, John Stockton, Karl Malone, Clyde Drexler, Charles Barkley. But for LeBron, with his biggest feather in his cap is he beat the 2016 Golden State Warriors, who was regarded as one of the best teams of all time, winning 73 games and coming back from a 3-1 deficit. So LeBron has had a lot of great moments like Michael Jordan has, and I think he'll continue to have those great moments if he continues to be the best player on the Lakers and continues to win finals MVPs. Because you can't argue James has been to 10 finals. As great as Michael Jordan is, Mr. Kumar, he's only been to 6. I can't, it's hard to kind of compare. I know it's different eras, but they just played 2 separate games in 2 separate eras, Mr. Kumar. Jordan is more of a score first, killer instinct kind of guy. LeBron James is more facilitating and power. So I think they have 2 different games, but this GOAT conversation is really heating up. And LeBron said at the end of Game 6 that he is going to play definitely more years. We don't know how many, but I think he'll at least get to 6, Mr. Kumar. And man, that's going to be a spicy debate.
Absolutely. And, also in the comparison, a lot of people forget that Jordan, the first 8 years of his career in basketball, he didn't even get to the playoffs, he got knocked out
in the first round twice.
Yeah, he got swept in the first round. So a lot of people sometimes compare only those 6 years when Jordan reached the finals, whereas they compared the 17 years for LeBron James. I'm not trying to say that Michael Jordan isn't one of the greatest players in the history of basketball. What I'm trying to say is basically that there's a Mount Rushmore, and today, number 1 might be Michael Jordan, but number 2, a very close number 2 is LeBron James. And now the gap between number 2 and number 3 is also a little bit larger. So most NBA Finals MVP, but the comparison, it's very close. So a lot of people think 51% think MJ is still the GOAT, and 49%, think LeBron James. But that could also be because of the euphoria that you have right now of LeBron James winning the finals.
It could be, and because we just saw it, him have a dominating run with the Los Angeles Lakers and winning the championship. Now LeBron is, really playing very well at year 17. He's, going against the regular norm of slowing down. He doesn't even look like he's slowing down, Mr. Kumar. He's still the best player in the NBA. He's going to have a real good chance next year to play some really high quality competition and get that 5th and 6th ring down in the future, because there's some really good teams out there. But if LeBron James and Anthony Davis stick together and they get another star, I think they have a great chance to win another championship. But I wanted to quickly talk about what you said about Michael Jordan not making it to the finals his first 8 years. He did have to play the bad boy Pistons, the Celtics. They were some of the best teams with Larry Bird in NBA history, but that's still no excuse. He ended up getting over the hump, and when he did, he had 2 3-peats, and I think that's really impressive. But LeBron James, if he gets a 3-peat, Mr. Kumar, with the Lakers, I think he has a real chance that people will regard him as a GOAT.
Well, I hope so, and I'm feeling pretty lucky, considering that even the odds makers have pretty much put Lakers as the favorites to win the title next season. We don't know when the next season is going to start, but I hope it's pretty soon. So let's hope that, the Lakers continue their momentum. And, of course, they got to resolve the free agency issue of Anthony Davis. But I don't think it's going to be a big concern, in my opinion. I think he's going to still sign up with the Lakers. It'll be a, 1 in a million chance that he leaves the Lakers.
Yeah, I think he's going to stay with the Lakers, Mr. Kumar, because he got his championship. I think he sees that LeBron James is going to pass the mantle to him eventually, and he can be the best player on the championship team. So I have no reason to see him leaving the Lakers. But now we got to move on, Mr. Kumar. We got very special guest, Memphis Grizzlies head coach Taylor Jenkins, and the first Indian female origin NBA assistant coach, Sonia Raman, Mr. Kumar.
What an exciting show. Let's welcome them, and Coach Taylor Jenkins and Coach Sonia Raman. We are very excited to talk to them.
This is an interesting, unique operation, that we're unfolding here in Orlando and living by every single day. And my message to everyone in our travel party has been, how are we going to work and how are we going to live?
Just coming in here, I didn't know what the bubble would look like, what it would feel like, food, activities, what we'd be able to do. But I think the NBA did the best job they could in trying to make us feel safe.
Yeah. Do you want to ask right now what our big areas of improvement that we can take?
We've been itching to get back on the floor and just play.
The more together you are as a team, the better you will play on the court. The brotherhood matters.
Yeah.
Welcome, Coach Jenkins and Coach Raman, to the PatelandKumar show. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me today.
Shivam, Vinod, thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be on with you guys again.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Welcome once again.
So let's get
welcome once again, Coach Taylor, Coach Raman. Of course, Coach Raman, you're new to the Memphis Grizzlies family, so welcome on behalf of the Grizzlies as well. But I think we are very excited to talk to you. Go ahead, Shivam. Please go ahead.
All right, the first question is for Coach Jenkins. So, Coach, after watching that video, there's a lot of memorable moments that you must have had in the bubble. So kind of tell us about those memories and what kind of moments stood out to you.
Yeah, Shivam, I'd say it's always great, seeing the footage put together, something that is once in a lifetime. So much credit goes to the NBA, Players Association, all the teams. Obviously, we just successfully completed the NBA restart, crowning a champion. But from the Grizzlies standpoint, to have the opportunity to get back together after, a promising start to our first year altogether this past year, new staff, a lot of new players, and just to continue to build on the growth that, we had all the way up until the beginning of March. And then you take this unforeseen pause and trying to rack your brain around, what to do during that time. The whole focus was, how do we get our players to continue to, be better? How can we be better as a coaching staff, a performance staff? And, even though we weren't, in Memphis on a day-to-day basis, we went to Orlando, we were still together. And, that's something that I always cherish, as unique as it was. You can look back and, we made a great push for the playoffs. We came up a little bit short, but the hunger's there, the taste in our mouth about, what are we going to do in this offseason to get ready for next year, is at the forefront of our minds. And, seeing that footage, it gives me a big smile on my face, because I recognize all the developments we had on and off the floor there, from a basketball standpoint, is very special. So we'll see what the future holds for us, in terms of playing. But knowing that we've got a great group of players, great staff, and we always focus on every day just getting better. That was definitely my biggest takeaway, and very proud of that.
So did you do a lot of fishing, Coach Taylor?
JV, Jonas got me out there, once early. And I will say, I'm not a big gambler, but it was like going to the casino for the very first time. I think I caught like 8 fish.
Oh, wow.
I think he only caught 2, and he's like a master fisherman. So I said, you know what? I'm going to stop while my luck is hot right now. And he and I shared some great times out on the dock, and got some good video and good pictures to have some great memories. Because, as I said a moment ago, there was a lot of stuff that we accomplished on the floor. But, a lot of the unique things that we were able to do, on the bubble properties was pretty fun, and fishing was one of them.
Yeah. I saw those videos on the Twitter page of JV going out fishing with his teammates. It looked like y'all were having a great time. So
he was the ringleader, and he was out there every single day. When the sun went down, that's when the fish come out. So I was taking his advice, and I know that was very important for him to, get through the bubble experience.
Yeah,
sure. So Coach Raman, I know you were probably in the interview process, with the Memphis Grizzlies, but you must have watched all the games. What did you think about the bubble, the way the Memphis Grizzlies played?
Yeah, just such an exciting team overall. And, you heard Taylor talk about their experience and talking to him in the interview process, that really came through. So what you see with your eyes in that eye test, I think is a really young, exciting team that, as Coach said, hungry, works incredibly hard. They look like they really love playing together. And I think that's really important. And then talking to Taylor in the interview process as well, hearing some of the things that, he values in his team, and what they're able to do, on and off the court, as he mentioned. Overall, I think the biggest word is exciting. And that's what I think of when I think of the Grizzlies.
No, for sure. So, Coach Jenkins, what are your kind of thoughts about watching the finals? Of LeBron winning his 4th championship, and the Lakers ended up, getting back on top after 10 years.
I mean, I thought it was high-level basketball. Anytime you get to the finals, you strip, who was the number 1 seed, who was the 2 seed. Obviously, I think, Miami was a 5 seed. That doesn't matter. It's the best 2 teams at that time, playing high-level basketball. It was great. Miami gave the Lakers a good push there. I know the Lakers had, I think 2 kind of resounding wins, that game 1 and that game 6. But other than that, 4, highly competitive games, kind of the chess match, especially when you get into the playoffs, even in round 1 of the playoffs. But in the finals, you're constantly seeing, what are the matchups? What are the coverage adjustments? What are the lineups? Are you playing big? Are you playing more small nowadays? What you did maybe in the round before is going to be completely different than what you did in the next round. But, for the Lakers going 10 years, I know it was a long wait, and, what a unique, special, cherishable championship, as they all are. And you see all the media clippings right now, everyone coming out talking about, the significance of this championship. For the uniqueness of the hiatus, the restart, the bubble, it took over a full calendar year to crown a champion. The wait took a long time. But the resolve of so many players, not just the Lakers, but the Miami Heat to go deep, the Denver Nuggets, the Boston Celtics, that takes a lot. And I know the Lakers are definitely cherishing that one. And it was definitely a lot of fun basketball. And, I know coming in, I was watching y'all talking about the GOAT conversation. I won't delve into that one. I definitely, I can sway a lot of different ways. There have been so many great players over the course of the NBA, but, obviously, LeBron, Anthony Davis, so many, talented players, role players, vets, they were the best team stand at the end, and, a lot of credit to them for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And we have an audience question for you, Coach Taylor from Aparna Rajkumar, who was not having to travel in the bubble. Do you think that the boys were rested and it translated into better performances?
Yeah, I think, one of the big trends in all professional sports, but especially in the NBA, is sports science. Always about how can you get the athletes, your players, to be in tip-top shape every single day. And that's not just lifting weights and cardio. It's also sleep and the wear and tear when it comes to traveling and changing time zones. So I think being in Orlando, one location, really not having games, back to back, but still having a day in between, definitely benefited. It was a unique environment. Speaking from experience, no fans, sorely missed. The energy that the fans bring to the game was definitely something that was missed. The layout of the gyms. You're not in a big arena that's normally sitting 18,000 fans. So there was an adjustment period there. But I definitely think one of the benefits was the lack of travel, the ability to have short rides from your hotel to the practice site, which was the same as the game site. And the game times were, for the most part, especially in the playoffs, normal, late evening. So you could have your recovery time at night, get a good night's sleep, wake up, not feel like you had to get on a plane again. You were able to establish a different routine and a consistent routine. And I definitely think that benefited the players. And I would also say the coaches too, to get into your groove from a work standpoint.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Coach Raman, what are your thoughts about the NBA Finals watching as a fan on TV?
Yeah, I think as Coach mentioned, just an incredible amount of adversity that I think both teams had to overcome, and all the teams in the bubble to get to the point that they got to. I was really impressed with both teams, the ability that they had to attack each other in multiple ways, the chess match that you alluded to. And also just how they're able to keep, social justice at the forefront of what they were doing, game in and game out. And that's an incredible thing that they're carrying along with, the pandemic that we're in, and just the job that the NBA did in putting this bubble together. On the outside looking in, it's really impressive to see that there were, 0 positive tests once the bubble was established, and games were all able to be played. So I think hats off to both teams and the coaching, and the adjustments that they were able to make. It was certainly fun to watch as a fan. Growing up in Boston and growing up as a Celtics fan, it's hard to really root for the Lakers, right? But it was really fun to kind of see those two teams at such a high level.
Yeah, that's understandable, Coach Raman. I wouldn't ask you to support the Lakers living in Boston, but moving on, I think let's talk about the Memphis Grizzlies. And Coach Taylor, what does it look like next season? I mean, of course, it's a very young team, and the performance was really impressive this season. Of course, you just fell short in terms of qualifying for the playoffs, especially with the play-in tournament. I mean, play-in game with Portland. So, what does the future look like for next year?
Well, the words that we always use, and Sonia said, is exciting. Bright. We can say that over and over again, but what is real? I think our expectation is continued growth. Obviously, we're really excited about the team that we're bringing back next year. Obviously, more decisions have to be made, with draft and free agency over the next couple of months. But, knowing that core of players that we have, that we've invested in over this past season, is that exciting point. But I think there's still a lot of work going on, within the rules that the NBA is allowing us to have. This is still a unique off season. It's not a traditional one that we're used to in terms of how we're able to work with our players, given the pandemic. But I definitely think there's, from the coaching standpoint, from our player standpoint, there's also an ownership and an investment in more development, even during a unique summer, that in order for us to take a step next year, our goals, we don't put win totals on it. We're not saying we've got to be this seed, come next year. It's, are we going to get individual growth, and are we going to get collective growth? And as a coaching staff, we spent a good amount of time already on our player development programs. We spent a good amount of time with a lot of different projects, from offensive strategies and philosophies to defensive strategies and philosophies. What are we going to do that we were successful with last year? But what can we change? What have we learned from other teams? Seeing the constant evolution of the NBA game from year to year, knowing that our players are evolving, but the game is evolving. So how can we best suit our team at the start of next year to hit the ground running whenever that comes? But I think our expectations next year, we're going to take a big growth step. We have goals for our players individually, and they're different player to player, and how we utilize them. And then I think from a team standpoint, we've got a good baseline. Like you said, we had a successful first year, but we're far from where we need to be. There's always room for improvement. Even the things that we did well, ranking high in assists, last year, something that I always talk to the team about, being unselfish. Well, we got to be more unselfish. But there's definitely areas offensively, defensively, that we've got to get better at. I'm just excited, whenever that day comes, that we can finally get back on the court, practice, and not have to virtual meet all the time. I think that's going to really make a big difference for us. And, I talked about that with the Orlando experience. There's nothing better than getting on the floor. And with the group that we have, they're hardworking, they're competitive, they love being with each other. I think that was one of the lines in the video. When you guys get along, it helps on the court. So those are all the things I'm looking forward to. And, I tell these guys every single day, it's all about competing together and getting better. So whatever it is on a given day, have that mentality. And I think that's a great foundation we've laid, and we've only got a lot more to do come next year.
No, that's definitely true. And you guys are one of the hardest playing teams in the NBA, watching the regular season and in the bubble. So, Coach, I had to ask you, you have two stars on your team, Ja and Jaren, who've already made a huge impact earlier in their careers. So how is it like coaching two young, talented players on your team?
It's a blessing, and I say that with so much truth behind it. It's a blessing. It's the people that I work with every single day, my coaching staff, our performance staff, our players. And as you mentioned, to have two bright young talents is always great for a coach, but even more so the human being, the people that they are, the professionals that they are, the teammates that they are. Those two guys have so many intangibles that make them natural leaders. They obviously have the work ethic and the competitive fire inside to help them be the best players. I mean, both guys are only 21 years old, and I think back to when I was 21 years old, what the future held for me. And I think these guys recognize that individually they have bright futures, but together with each other and with their teammates, the sky's the limit. So that's why I call it a blessing, because anytime in this NBA world, which is constantly changing and constantly evolving, to have two young, talented players that are also mature beyond their years, and at the end of the day are team oriented, that makes my job a whole lot easier. That rallies the group around them, the coaches, their teammates, for our ultimate goals, which is to win championships here in Memphis. So it's fun. Even talking with them in the summer, they're already focused on what work they have to do for next year. And I know they're constantly interacting with their teammates about the same thing. So as a coach, when you can kind of take a step back every now and then and let your players kind of drive, your vision, that's really special.
Well, I mean, I can only say, good luck for the next season because, we are excited, especially, and of course, convey our wishes to Ja Morant for winning the Rookie of the Year. He played phenomenal last season. But Coach Raman, I mean, can you explain what would be your role as an assistant coach on, Taylor Jenkins' staff? And, how do you see, your future in this team?
Yeah, I think a pretty standard assistant coaching role. I'll be, assisting Taylor with whatever he needs, in practices and then a focus on, scouting. I think there's a good distribution of scouts across all the assistant coaches. So, a hand in that, a hand in player development. I think that's a big piece of it. I'm looking forward to getting to know everyone, first of all, and just developing those relationships with the players, with the rest of the staff, the extended staff. They've all already really embraced me and welcomed me into the family. So, excited to work with all of them. But yeah, I mean, pretty much anything that they need me to do, I'm excited to learn all of it and then to be able to contribute in any way I can.
And I'd jump in and say, we're so excited that, Sonia chose to come to Memphis. It was a fun, interview process. She and I did not know each other prior to this, and to really get to know her rather quickly, you learn about her passion, not only for learning the game, how much she studies basketball, how many conversations we had where she's always studied NBA teams, obviously the Celtics being in her backyard. So the scouting element, the analytics, side of things that she's passionate about, but her real passion is player development. How many girls that came through her program at MIT and went on to do great things, not just as players, coaches, but as people. And that's what we do here in Memphis. And that was probably one of the biggest things that stood out to me is the program that she built at MIT, how successful they became. But a lot of that was relationship based. And, that's something that we pride ourselves on here in Memphis. So she's going to do wonderful things, as she said, as a typical assistant coach. But we know she has so much more to give and add value to us here in Memphis and, to our players. So that's what we're thrilled about.
Yeah, and Coach Raman was a coach in MIT history, so she definitely had a lot of success. So, Coach Raman, what drew you to the Memphis Grizzlies in this opportunity?
So I actually got a phone call from their VP of basketball strategy, Rich Cho, and he reached out, as they were still in the bubble, just to talk about the opening with Niall Ivey moving on to Notre Dame, getting that head coaching position at alma mater, which is congratulations to Niall and exciting for her. And so that opened up the opportunity. And I knew Rich just a little bit from some conversations we had over the past year. As he was looking to, just make that connection with MIT, potentially some analytics, stars on our team and maybe on the men's team. And so I just got to know him a little bit, and I actually knew a little bit about the Grizzlies through that relationship, and was just so impressed with what they were doing. So he reached out, and it certainly seemed like a really intriguing opportunity. That I had to, seriously consider. I mean, I think the NBA is obviously the highest level of basketball in the world, and my passion for basketball and really knowing the game and learning it, it just seemed like such an exciting challenge to coach at that level, to be able to learn more from another organization, and then to do it with specifically the Grizzlies, and Taylor and Zach Kleiman, their GM, who I got to speak with as well. I think that was what really sealed it for me was getting to know them and the people, with the Grizzlies especially.
Absolutely. And did Coach Taylor give you a hard time during the interview process?
He was really good to me. He let me talk for probably longer than I should have been talking, and answered questions and, gave him my life story. So, he was great. It felt like just a really comfortable conversation. I can genuinely say, I had fun interviewing. I don't know if that's a typical thing feel in an interview, but it was a lot of fun because we were talking basketball and just exchanging, ideas and stories. And, that's kind of the best type of conversation you can really have, I think.
I think if you spoke more than Coach Taylor, I mean, I don't know if that could really happen because I know Coach Taylor can talk.
Those are
So-
two deep passions for basketball right there, and that's definitely a strong argument to have her with us because she's deeply passionate. So I love having people that can just talk hoops.
Sure. So, I mean, I know you talked a little bit about your life story in terms when you did your interview, but can you elaborate on your story from a law graduate to becoming an assistant coach with an NBA team? Because that's a unique, career that somebody chooses from going through a law graduate to a assistant coach.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that any of that was intentional. I didn't have it all laid out. Like, I'm going to go to law school and I'm going to end up in the NBA. I had other plans in terms of what my career was going to be. It was, going into the legal profession. I had coached at the college level for a couple of years before law school at my alma mater, Tufts University. So, I love that. And then I went on to law school thinking I was going to head, kind of in that direction. Being a coach was, as a career, it wasn't something that was really on my radar, but it was always a passion, and I knew I would always do it in some way. But after law school, working in the legal profession, I had an opportunity to be an assistant coach at Wellesley College, and I was like, sure, I can probably move my schedule around and make it to all the practices, and you can do anything for a year. I can help them out. They needed somebody on a short notice basis. So, I agreed to do it, figured you can do anything for a year, and I stayed for 6. I loved it. I loved working, with Kathy Hagerstrom. She was really an early mentor for me. And that was when I started to realize that, I could do, this basketball thing, this coaching thing as my day job. It doesn't have to just be something that I wait all day and I'm excited for practice to come. And she really kind of planted that seed. And so I seriously was considering then coaching, and the MIT job opened up right in the same conference. I was really a huge fan of MIT from afar, just what they're able to do as an institute of higher learning, and what the players were like, and so I was really drawn to it. It was a basketball compliance job. So I felt like, okay, I'm still using my JD a little bit on the compliance side, and I get to coach. And I loved it. I mean, it was a dream job. I thought I might stay forever. I stayed for 12 years, and I think I loved every minute of it. The players I got to work with, the other coaches I got to work alongside. I mean, just a really incredible experience. So I was really happy. And I think one of the things about, moving from one job to the next is to really embrace the job you have when you have it and to try to do the best you can at that job. I think if your mind is always thinking about what's next, I want to get to here. I have this 5-year plan, this 10-year plan. The best laid plans don't always work out, and you may miss out on some great opportunities right where you are. So I think doing what you can do to the best of your ability where you are, and then it just sort of happened that the NBA became an opportunity for me. There's certainly some luck involved when it comes to that. Just knowing Rich in advance so I guess that's sort of the journey overall. I think as an Indian woman, or Indian American woman, being a basketball coach is not exactly a profession that Indians tend to gravitate towards. Yeah. So I think I was really lucky to have my parents' support on that too. They were a little bit surprised when I told them I was leaving, my job to go to MIT and coach full time, but they were so supportive of it and had such great advice for me. So I think that's a big part of it as well.
And that's
sure. Awesome. And I think we'll elaborate, of course, more on your Indian connection in our Indian Tadka section. But Coach Taylor, I mean, for next year, for all the coach challenges, you can pretty much take Sonia's help because being a law graduate, she'll definitely give you the right advice.
Well, I need the right argument points where it's even if I know I'm wrong, I can spin it that I'm right, and somehow I can work the system into our favor. So I know that's a significant area of improvement for us. So Sonia, we might have to put that on the job task list there.
Well, awesome. So, Coach Raman, what are also some things that you've learned along the way that you can take, into the NBA? Being the huge inspiration that you are of pursuing your passion.
I think being really detailed is important. You can't cut corners. I think that the way we approach scouts at MIT will hopefully help prepare me for the level of detail that that Taylor would require in scouting an NBA team. I think the element of always learning and always kind of looking for a better way to do something, but also understanding that there's so many right ways in basketball, so you have to find what fits your team best. Mm-hmm. And then I think just really being committed. I know it's a cliche, but really being committed to a process. And Taylor said one of his core values, is to get better. And so I think that was something that we really tried to commit to at MIT and to really love the process. It's a long season in the NBA. It's 3 times as long as my college season. If you don't love process, then it might not be the best fit. So I think that those elements that I had before, I'm hoping will help me and serve me well in this new role.
Absolutely. So it's really inspiring because, of course, as you clearly mentioned, for an Indian American to become an assistant coach with an NBA team, it's rarely heard of. Even Indian American male, we I think have 2 of them, one in OKC and I think
Sacramento.
Sacramento, yeah. So it's really inspiring, and we just wish you all the very best, and I know you're in good hands with Coach Taylor.
Yeah.
But Coach Taylor, I'm going to put you in a little bit of a spot, and this will be the last question in our NBA segment, and then we'll move on to the Indian Tadka segment because it's the spiciest section on on YouTube. But as a small market team, you've been with the Milwaukee Bucks as well, which is also considered a small market team. Is it difficult to attract big time talent or win championships as a small market team?
I'd say no. I think you can definitely see I also came from San Antonio, a small market team that has had a lot of success. You just do it different ways. Everyone talks about the resources and the markets and whatnot that attracts players. Obviously, what we're going to pride ourselves on, and we're going to do it our way, is through internal growth. Obviously, we talked about 2 of our pillars and Ja and Jaren, but you look at some of the other young players on our team, and Justice Winslow, Brandon Clark, and then we surround them with also great vets and experience. So there's a lot of different ways that you can build your team, and I think if you look at our roster through the draft, through free agent signings and trades, there's so many different mechanisms that you can use. Some teams just go a different route. Some draft more, some sign free agents more, some make more trades. So for us, if we can just focus on the internal growth of the players that we believe in the future, and then understand the different mechanisms that you can use to continue to add. Is it adding more star power? Is it adding, key reserve players? Is it adding more leadership, more toughness, more IQ, more shooting? There's so many different elements that you can put on a roster, and there's so many different ways you can do that. And outside of that, having the mentality that it doesn't matter where you are, and the pride that we have in our city here. What a basketball town Memphis is. From the Memphis Grizzlies, the Memphis Tigers, there's so much rich history here. That should attract, players, especially what we're going to be doing on the floor, how we play, how we treat our players, how we develop our players. I think that sends signals across the league and across the globe that we're a place to be, that people want to be here. And that can be the same thing said for staff, that coaches want to be here because of, the basketball that we're going to be playing and coaching, but how everyone's going to develop here individually as well, outside of what our team, goals and accomplishments are. So hopefully that at the end of the day, that process, use that word that Sonia said, that's what we live by every single day. That's what we can control every single day. That's what we invest in every single day. And ultimately, if you do that at a high level, you get the right players, you get the right people. You put all that together, you get a little luck along the way. You can sustain that year after year, then you're going to have championships. And I've been fortunate to work in great situations, from my roots in San Antonio to the Atlanta Hawks, Milwaukee Bucks, all different markets, all different, processes and strategies. So I've learned and pulled on those strengths, and hopefully here in Memphis, in my partnership with Zach Kleiman, partnership with ownership, partnership with our players, that we're going to be able to bring those championships here. It's going to take a lot of work for sure. But if we can keep it pretty simple, but also continue to stay true to who we are every single day and believe in our process, that's what ultimately gets you to the top of the mountain. So,
yeah,
that's a lot. That's a long answer there. So that's why championships are celebrated. They're not easy. There's a lot of work, a lot of luck involved with that. But if you can kind of stay true to what you believe in, and everyone around you, from front office, coaching staff, players, performance staff, our fans, everyone buys that and believes in that. That's what creates that excitement. That's what attracts the people to come here. You have that over a lot of years. Hopefully you're fortunate enough to compete for some championships.
No, that's true. And you have something very special brewing in Memphis. So that's very, very exciting. So we have the poll question. Will Ja Morant be named an All-Star next season? It looks like 80% of the audience says yes. So Mr. Kumar, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I feel so too. But I think we'll make sure as, influencers in the Indian market to make sure that the Indian population votes for Ja Morant, so that we can get him to the All-Star team. But let's move on to our spiciest section. I hope you guys have water next to you if you don't like spicy food. But this is the spiciest section on YouTube. It's the Patel and Kumar NBA Talk Show Indian Tadka section. Welcome back. And I know being the first female assistant coach of Indian origin, so a lot of the dedication in this section is going to be on Coach Raman. So Coach Raman, we just want to know about your Indian connection, Indian heritage, and of course how your relatives basically viewed you when you said, I'm going to become a basketball coach.
My parents were both born in India, immigrated here, and so I was born and grew up in the United States. I have just a huge family and the extended family side. On my mom's side of the family, tons of aunties and an uncle, and on my dad's side of the family, an auntie and an uncle. So everybody is just like along for this ride, already asking me like, when's the season going to start? How do I watch Grizzlies games? All of it. They're so excited. We do have some basketball fans in the family. Some of my cousins, grew up playing basketball. But they're all in, and that's kind of how it is with the family. Whatever someone's doing, you're going to get on board with that. So they're excited. I have relatives in India, and then here in the States, and in Australia and the UK. So we're all over, you're going to see Grizzlies, if they're tracking on where people are logging in on League Pass. You're going to see people all over. But yeah, my Indian heritage, I think it's just growing up in the States. Obviously, it's a little different than in terms of being able to absorb that and have it around me. And so most of that comes from my parents. In terms of, culture and food. And I was talking to both of you earlier about how over quarantine, I've been trying to learn some more traditional Indian dishes. Both my parents are great cooks, and I've lived right near them for, my whole life. So the timing of learning how to cook over quarantine has come in handy as I get to Memphis. That I can potentially, whip up a few dishes on my own now. Maybe get some of those spiciest dishes that you mentioned. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting, and I think that the opportunities are certainly there for Indian Americans. I think it's a matter of choosing if you want to go into that as a profession or not. But I don't feel that there's really, I'm fortunate. I don't feel that there's been any barriers in that way. I always feel like I've been very much embraced as an Indian woman, whether it was as a player or as a coach, and so I do feel really lucky in that way.
Yeah, and Coach,
absolutely. And I think you need to feed the entire team and Coach Taylor with some spicy Indian food so they get used to it, and when they come to India, they can get accustomed to the food here.
Okay, yeah, we could do that.
So, Coach Raman, growing up in the U.S., how have your Indian roots kind of shaped you, both professionally and personally?
Great question. I think the culture and what my parents bring to me, I think, that is the Indian heritage. And so, certainly the work ethic that my parents have shaped me with, as immigrants to the United States, and the fact that they were fortunate enough to be able to do that, and just seeing how hard they've worked my whole life and still do, I think has been my inspiration for how I approach everything I approach. And so, I think it's much more, family than necessarily literally Indian heritage, but I think those two things obviously go hand in hand. Because that is my Indian heritage, and so I think there's a respect for others. There's the work ethic that I mentioned, and I think those are probably the things that have shaped me the most.
Yeah, and Coach Raman, you talked about Indian food. What are some of your favorite dishes that you like to whip up?
Well, I think I've mastered some aloo chole or chana masala, depending on where you are in India. I've made that several times. It was kind of my first guinea pig dish, and being kind of in love with the process, I was like, all right, I need to just go to the second and the third and the fourth iteration, and I just kept going with aloo chole forever until my mom gave me a little nudge, and she's like, I think it's time that you learn how to make something. Let's branch out here. You don't need to master one dish before you move on to the next one. Yeah. So it's not linear. So I started to get the confidence, once I had that down, to move on. I made a mango bath. My partner and I tried to, make a few things over quarantine. And so we came together and made that. It seemed like there was 1,000 steps to that dish. So that was probably the most complicated one. Some butter chicken, some chicken vindaloo, all shortcut versions in the Instant Pot. So those are some of the things that I've worked on. And my everydays would be making bale or chaat, or masala dosas. So that's probably my range right now, but I certainly need to expand the menu.
Yeah, that's sure. Good stuff though. But like you said, it's not easy making Indian dishes. There's a lot of steps involved, a lot of spices involved. It's a whole process. So
there is, yeah. I mean, my parents make it look like it's really easy and fast, but yeah. I haven't gotten there.
Yeah. Okay, so I think due to paucity of time, of course, so let's on to the next section. We have a few questions from some girls who are looking to get inspired by you, so Coach Sonia. So let's have the first question.
Okay.
Hi Sonia Raman. Firstly, congratulations. So happy and proud for all the achievements, and also all the very best for your future ventures. I'm Apurva Murlinath. I'm a former basketball player. I played for the Indian national team, and right now I'm a coach. I coach at Dean College in Massachusetts. I also coach a couple of high school basketball and also AU league teams here in Massachusetts as well. My long-term goal would be to coach in the NBA or the WNBA. And what would be your advice for someone like me? Thank you. And thanks for Ekalavyas for giving me this opportunity. Thanks again. Bye.
Great. So thanks for that question, Apurva. You're right down the street from me right now in my backyard before I moved. So that's fun. You're right over at Dean College, and coming from the national team, you must have just an incredible background in the game. I think advice would be similar to what I mentioned earlier, and touching on, do the job you currently have as well as you can. Get really good at it. And I think the process of getting really good at what you're doing now will certainly help you down the road and in any next step you want to, to get to. And always be a student of the game. Remember that there's so many, right ways to do something in basketball. There's going to be a way that you think is best probably at, with the program that you're in now based on personnel. Don't miss out on what else is out there. Make sure that you're watching the game. Watch the game, a lot when you have time, outside of what you're doing with your program, and study it. There's great content out there. There's great Twitter content out there to kind of round out knowledge. There's video people that put things out there that are really helpful, breakdowns to watch. But really, be a student of the game and be where you are and do it as well as you can, and seek out opportunities to learn and expand your network whenever you can.
Thanks, Coach. Okay, can we have the next question, please?
Hi Sonia, my name is Aishwarya from Bangalore, a national level basketball player and a sports industry management grad from Georgetown University. First, I want to congratulate you on being the first Indian American woman on an NBA coaching staff. And we all know representation is really important, so thank you for blazing the trail and allowing us girls with a passion for basketball to dream a little bigger. I have two questions for you. One, Title IX, the law that provides equal opportunity for everyone to play sport at a grassroots level. How beneficial has that been for you and your career? And second, looking back, if you had one or two resources that could probably accelerate your career further, what would those resources be?
Thanks, Ashra. Well, that's a great question as well. Hitting me with the law, right, with a Title IX question. I think you can't even, you can't ever underestimate like the power of Title IX and what it's done for girls and women in sport in the United States. So I'm very fortunate to have come up, in this Title IX world. There's so many women who blazed that trail before me. So I had the benefit of, I always had teams to play on. There was always girls teams growing up. I started playing a little bit later, but there was a team right there, and in my town, there's multiple teams. And I had the opportunities and I had the access, and, that continued throughout, in college. The women's team at Tufts was treated, in the same way as the men's team. It didn't go by gender, it didn't go by win-loss record. It was truly, there's an equality there. So that's all I've ever really known. As a coach, it's the same thing. Our players get the same facilities that the men's players do. We have a very fair rotation, so it's not like, the women's team is out in a backcourt somewhere and the men's team has the main floor. And everybody embraces it. I've never really worked with anyone that's begrudgingly doing this. It is really very bought into with everybody that I've been around. It's been a tremendous benefit to me, and I think to all women and girls coming up and playing sports in the U.S. I think for anyone, a resource that can help your career would just be a network and access and opportunity. So, I think growing up as in the basketball world in Massachusetts and the New England area, there's so many college programs, like 50 colleges, right in a small radius of a few miles in Boston. So I had the opportunity to continue to grow and build my network. May not be as easy to do regionally, depending on where you are, but I think access and opportunity to people who can really, listen and talk to you about your career and mentor you a little bit is always something that can really help, I think, in anyone's career.
Thanks, Coach. I think we have one final question, and after that we can move on to our contest winner. So please roll up the next question, please.
Hi, my name is Ishani. First off, congratulations, Coach Raman, on being the first Indian origin female coach in the NBA. I myself am a senior at UT Austin and a prospective law student. So my question is about your transition from a legal career to a coaching job. How has your legal background helped you be a better coach? Thank you so much for answering this question.
Thanks, Ishani, and hope you're enjoying your senior year. Good luck as you pursue law school. I think that a JD is a really versatile degree to have. I didn't go to law school thinking I was going to be litigating in courtrooms, so that was really never the plan. But I knew that it was, like I said, it was a versatile degree. I think it expects and you learn to be a critical thinker. I think you have to understand how to issue spot and be able to solve problems. But I think it also teaches you how to be really solutions oriented. You can approach the law in a lot of different ways, but if you're trying to figure out, how to get to yes, as a compliance officer, how do I get to yes for the benefit of our student athletes, but while also being compliant? How do I approach a problem? Basketball is just a series of problems that you're trying to solve. And so how to approach something like that at all angles and find the best solution for your organization, is just a way of thinking. And I think that my legal background probably helps me in that area more than anything else.
And of course, I'm sure you really made a watertight contract in terms of when you became the assistant coach of the Memphis Grizzlies as well.
I had to have someone help me with that. I had no idea what I was doing. So,
but yeah, thank you so much for answering those questions. Of course, we had a lot more, but of course, because of the paucity of time, we have to cut short those. But I think we'll move on to Coach Taylor, who's going to announce the winner of our MaiBhiGrizzlies contest.
Yes, thank you, Vinod. So it's time for us to announce the winner of the MaiBhiGrizzlies fan contest. So drum roll, please. The winner is Tanish Sharma. Let's see Tanish's video celebrating the Grizzlies.
2018 to 2020, Memphis Grizzlies have experienced a lot of changes in this 2-year span, including some of their earliest acquisitions like Conley and Gasol. Even though this bubble might have not been so cool to the Grizzlies, but they actually had nothing to lose because they are trying to build a system which may solidify their place in the league for many upcoming seasons, with young players like Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark. In other words, we can say that Memphis have pulled off an excellent rebuild in a short period of 2 years, a rebuild which usually takes multiple years for any organization. The Grizzlies front office have done a good job. Now we just need to wait and watch this team with young and athletic players and see if they can pull something off, if they can thrive.
Welcome, Tanish, and congratulations on winning the MaiBhiGrizzlies contest. Great video, and this is your opportunity. I'll hand it over to you to ask Coach Jenkins and Coach Raman whatever questions you like. So go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. So I'll go with my first question to Coach Taylor. So, Coach, you were part of the Atlanta Hawks, who saw a good success in the regular season for so many years, and then you were with the Bucks when they dominated the East in 2019 season. So both of these teams were the Eastern Conference teams. So now does something change for you as you are coaching the Western Conference team right now, as your mindset and approach?
Yeah, Tanish, thank you so much for that awesome video. You make so many wonderful points and great questions. It's definitely a shift when you go from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference. I think on a day-to-day basis, how you coach your team, for the most part, is pretty consistent. I talked about your philosophies and your core values. You stick to that. But obviously, we're competing, way more against the Western Conference than the Eastern Conference. So, in terms of, working with our general manager on how we build our team, it's different. We're playing the, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Lakers, and, the Clippers and the Nuggets, a young team, the Dallas Mavericks, New Orleans Pelicans, two young teams in our own division, that are up and coming as well as us. You play them well more than the Eastern Conference, and how you build your team, the players that you bring in is something that you definitely spend a lot more time focusing on, given the competition that you're going to play more. From a scouting standpoint, going into the season, game to game, 82 games is a lot of games. They come, pretty fast. You're always going to mostly, at least for us, stick to what you are game to game. But as I mentioned, in terms of adjustments, different combinations that we might play, different coverages or ways to attack on offense, we'll probably highlight them a little bit more in preparations throughout the season for our Western Conference opponents. we'll take stock in how the Lakers guard us, or how do we need to guard the Lakers and the Clippers and the Nuggets and the Rockets and the Pelicans and the Trailblazers. The list goes on because there's so many great teams in the West. We're going to probably pay a little bit more attention to how we approach those games more than the Eastern Conference. I mean, we're gonna scout, prepare, and give it our full attention equally to the Eastern Conference. But since we face the Western Conference so much more, we're going to have so much more data on a game-to-game basis that we can take into our practices, take into our film sessions more often in our conversations. Because hopefully, we take that next step and we make the playoffs. Now you're talking about 7-game series or even heightened more preparations. You'll have done all your work, hopefully, during the regular season to really get yourself ready for the playoffs. So it's definitely a shift. But, basketball's basketball at the end of the day. When you go out there and play, you play to your strengths and what's best for your team. But as we prepare on a day-to-day basis and game-to-game basis, there definitely is a little bit more attention on that Western Conference schedule.
Go ahead, Tanish. You can
so
ask your second question.
Yeah, so my question is, first of all, I would like to ask Coach Raman one question. So, Coach Raman, you've been coaching university players for almost 12 years right now, and now coaching in the NBA. So, do you change your approach towards the player, because now you're working with NBA players and not the university players? Those are different kind of players, more skilled and different. So, how do you change that, or do you keep it the same?
Yeah, I think the approach in terms of the relationship building is the same, and I think that beyond that, I think you're always looking at a player's areas for growth and their strengths, and so I think that approach stays the same as well. The areas of growth might be a little different than where I was before. Their strengths might be a little different than where I was before. So of course, there's going to be differences with the different levels, and so you account for that. But I think the approach stays pretty consistent in terms of, first of all, developing the relationships with the players as you're trying to develop them. And then, we're there to make them the best basketball players they can be and the best players for the Grizzlies. So how do we do that? What's the approach? What's the overall philosophy within the coaching staff? And then implementing that with each individual player, I think that's pretty much the same as what I've been doing in terms of an approach.
Thanks, Coach Raman, and Tanish. Thanks so much, because the video that you made was excellent, and as even Coach Taylor pointed out, I mean, you're right on the money, because this is a very young team. They're trying to rebuild, and especially with Coach Taylor's leadership and with Coach Raman assisting, I'm sure this team is going to really flourish in the seasons to come. So let's hope for a better season for Memphis Grizzlies. Yes, and thank you so much, and congratulations on being the winner of this MaiBhiGrizzlies contest. We're trying to make India a hub for Grizzlies. I know a lot of people support the Lakers and the Boston Celtics and stuff like that, but through our connection with Coach Taylor and Coach Raman now, we want to make like India like the Grizzlies hub, and so let's hope for more fans coming out of India. So thank you so much, Tanish. And
thank
we
you,
look forward to it.
Tanish. Look forward to more videos. Great job.
Great video.
Well, that was Tanish, who was the MaiBhiGrizzlies contest winner. But before we let go of you, I mean, we just did a fun take on which city or which town in India, would if there was a Grizzlies franchise in India, which town or city would probably have, more. So we did an audience poll in terms of coming up with that answer. So, we had, I think, Mussoorie in the north, which is hill station. We had, Mizoram, which is in the eastern part of India. Mahabaleshwar is like in the western part. And then we had Mount Abu, Munnar, and Mirzapur. I know it's a little bit new towns that you hear, Coach Taylor, but let me tell you, these are all like hill stations or, in the mountains. But 54% actually said Mirzapur. But Mirzapur is like a, new series on Amazon Prime, which is like the Sopranos of India or something like that. So I think a lot of people chose Mirzapur just because it's like rustic and a lot of a lot of fun going on in that city in this particular series, of course, but it's just not there in general. But once again, thank you so much for being here, Coach Taylor and Coach Raman. Any last words from you for us? Because it's been a fantastic season. You'd put out a video for our first episode, and this is our 13th episode, the season finale, and we are just lucky to have you live here as well.
Well, I just want to say thank you both, gentlemen. This has been an unbelievable experience. It's always great to interact with y'all. To welcome Sonia as a part of the family is awesome. To interact with our fans, and I just want to thank you guys. The thanks doesn't need to come to us. Thank you guys for the support of the Grizzlies, the growing support in India. It's through y'all's passion for basketball, but also for the Grizzlies, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I wish you guys all the best. To know that this is the end of the season. I know there's going to be so many more seasons for you guys moving forward. So you guys love the game. You love talking the game. You love learning about the game. That's what connects all of us. So I'm appreciative of the time. Look forward to coming back on. As I've said before, I can't wait to make it over to India for the first time with you guys and sharing some great experiences.
Well, the honor is for us, Coach Jenkins and Coach Raman. Thank you very much for coming on. We look forward to both of you guys coming to India. Best of luck going forward for the off season and the regular season. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Wow, I mean,
man,
what can we say?
What a conversation, Mr. Kumar. We hit a bunch of topics, a lot of different things. Man, what an awesome way to end the show. I couldn't think of a better way to end with two very high profile, guests, Coach Jenkins and Coach Raman. And we want to thank them again for their time and thank Tanish again for winning the MaiBhiGrizzlies contest.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, we're trying to make Grizzlies a hub, or one of the favorite teams coming out of India. We got to do a big job of getting Ja Morant into the All-Star game. So we have a lot of work cut out for us, Mr. Patel. So let's hope we are able to make up on those promises. But what a season it has been. What a season it has been for us. We started, I think it was 30th July. I think 31st of July was the first game of the bubble. And I think it was LA Lakers and Clippers. And it was a Jazz. I think the Nuggets, or I think the Grizzlies, I believe. I think the Grizzlies, I believe. But yeah, and it was a fantastic game. Overtime, went into overtime or something. And but more importantly, before we leave, I think we got to wish our executive producer Tushar Patel a very, very happy birthday. Your dad.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday, Dad. Any plans for tonight? What's the plan for tonight, man?
Oh man, we're just gonna chill as a family. Maybe get some takeout, just relax, enjoy each other's company. And have a good time, Mr. Kumar. And I would like to thank again both of our producers of Tushar Patel and Gopal for making this season happen and for all the success. And Mr. Kumar, we've had an amazing first season, a lot of highlights. As Michael Jordan said, some people want it to happen, some people wish it to happen. Others make it happen. We made it happen, Mr. Kumar. It was a team effort. We made the first ever NBA talk show on YouTube, and we had so many highlights, so many guests, and some episodes that stand out to me, Mr. Kumar. Of course, the Bo episode. We had a great conversation. TNT commentator, the GOAT mentator. That was a lot of fun. The Kobe tribute with Gudin Madok. That was an amazing episode also. And then the last episode, Mr. Kumar, with Sanjana Ramesh and Coach Nick. Those are the episodes that stand out to me in our first season.
Absolutely. A lot of fun. It was exciting. I used to look forward to the Thursday evening, almost the entire week. And we put in a lot of hard work. As you mentioned, big thanks to Gopal, the Ekalavyas channel, and of course, your dad Tushar for putting up this. Animesh, who was also our video editor. So a lot of people, a lot of hard work. And a big thanks to you, Mr. Patel. You were wonderful. You were awesome. And this is just the beginning. So it's just the first season, and we're gonna come back, of course, with a special edition of our show during the draft, or just immediately after the draft happens. So look forward to it. We'll be announcing all the show timings. But thank you very much to all the fans who kept on connecting with us on all our mediums. Connect with us again on Twitter and Instagram at PatelandKumar. Sign up to our channel on the Ekalavyas YouTube channel. And, it's been wonderful experience. So keep connecting back with us. And of course, also subscribe to the Patel Pick and Roll Sports YouTube channel and the podcast as well. So, Mr. Patel, an awesome time. But let me tell you, Kumar was a more popular surname. Kumar is a more popular surname in the U.S. than Patel.
Oh, I don't know about that, Mr. Kumar. Patel is pretty popular. I know a lot of Patels. We have a whole army. We have a whole army there. But I would like to thank everybody again, all our audience. Mr. Kumar, thank you. I've had a great time. I'm going to miss your crazy takes and your crazy comments, Mr. Kumar. But we're definitely going to be back. As Ekalavyas said, watch out for our special NBA 2021 draft episode in November. There's no other place you want to be for the best basketball coverage out there, the Patel and Kumar NBA talk show.
Well, thank you, Aparna, for that comment. Yes, it was done and dusted, but we are not done and dusted. We will be back very soon in November for the 2021 draft show, and then of course we will keep you informed on the next season as well. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a very good night. Stay safe. And of course, keep your dish. So thank you very much. Good night.
Good night. The first season's in the books. We are finished.
I'm number